Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sisters of the Strange. I'm Shae.
And I'm Landrey.
And this week, we're back with a Landry story.
We are. We're going to be doing the Chillingham Castle. It's been requested, and I actually had a listener in our Discord who wanted to help with research. So I did do my own research, and then I also utilized what they sent and just kind of made a compilation situation going on. But I wanted to shout him out. His name is John. And then he also asked me to shout out Amber and Miss Optimistic. He said that they will understand.
Hopefully they're listening.
So shout out to all of you.
That's amazing. What a guy.
I know.
He's like, not only shout me out, but shout my friends out.
I've got friends. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
But he did great research. And then I also did a lot of it. So I just kind of like tied it all together. And that's what we got.
Here we go.
But I do want to put a trigger warning out for this story.
Oh boy.
The castle saw a lot of war, a lot of torture. And I do mention the devices that are used. And I kind of run through like what they did and how they worked. And there were some prisoners that were children.
Oh.
There's no graphic scenes. I don't do any graphic scenes for like any of the children, anything like that. But I will mention that there is like mention of the children as prisoners as well, which is just kind of sad.
Yeah.
So just wanted to put that out there. If this episode's not for you, I get it. That's fine.
Move right along.
There will be more for you to come back to. So just come back. But without further ado, let's just get right on into it.
Let's dive in.
This one's kind of long. So
I'm about to dive in. Sorry.
So Chillingham Castle actually starts with kind of a muggy history. When you look in the origins of who built Chillingham Castle and who utilized the castle first, some sources claim that it was a monastery, while other sources claim that the monastery status came later by blending some history and historical pieces. So there might have been some sort of chapel or some like a small religious presence on site, which was very common back then. Most of the castles I visited in Scotland and Ireland had their own like chapels in them. But there may have been a point in time where it got misinterpreted that that chapel was there or exaggerated into it saying it started as a monastery.
Okay.
From what I researched, there was no real proof that it truly started as a monastery. So you'll hear that, but it also could have just been like a lodging type situation because it wasn't what the castle is today either. Whenever it started, it was more of, I wouldn't even say like now it's more of a fortress, but it started as a much smaller area.
Okay.
But what we do know is that the castle sat on the border between Scotland and England, which I've talked about before. And that was a dangerous place to be in a time period that was known as the Border Wars. So between 1296 and 1357.
Not real.
Not real. Time frame's wrong.
Fake time.
So during that time, Scotland and England were in a constant battle. Scotland was trying to gain their independence. England was trying to stay ruling them. So being on the borderlands between them was probably not the best place to be. And that's exactly where this castle sat.
Okay.
And also during this time period, castles were used more as fortresses and battle stations and less as family homes. Now they are more family homes because you're not having wars,
right,
where they need to be used for
a fortress.
battle.
Yeah.
But most of these castles, or most of the ones I visited, had a lot of history of being more fortresses and things like that. And their furniture would get taken out and they'd get turned into like these battle stations. And then eventually when war was over, they would be able to be given back to the lords, dukes, duchess, all the people who lived there. So around the 13th century, which would be in the 1200s, the Grey family owned the property. And I did look it up. They are related to Lady Jane Grey, who was like the white ghost, the gray ghost.
Oh.
She's a very popular.
We talked about her. You talked about her,
yeah,
right?
She's kind of known throughout multiple castles. So she was in the Glamis Castle, and I think I talked about Glamis.
Mm-hmm.
So They were related, but different time periods.
Okay.
But they owned the property around the 13th century, but due to the castle being in this war situation, they most likely did not actually live there. Most people who even were wealthy enough to have a castle in like the countryside also had different lodgings elsewhere. So this castle was taken over mainly by the English soldiers. They would stop here to plot, plan, rest, all the things before they would invade Scotland. But then Scots would come back and would fight them and would basically trap them inside of the place to where they couldn't get out, couldn't get food, couldn't do any of that stuff. But the way that this castle originated was it was the structure. It was a very small, basic structure, but due to all of the war, the Greys were allowed to add on to their house to make it a fortress. They had to get the king's approval, and it made it to where they were allowed to turn it into more of a protective place. So they added curtain walls, which are big defense outer walls. They added towers for lookout points and archers to keep post. They added a gatehouse, which was a heavily defended area that protected the entrance.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also added a moat for an extra layer of protection.
Okay.
But they had to get king approval for that. So King Edward I actually approved this because he was still in charge of everything.
Right.
And I think it is on the English side of the border.
And so they were doing that to help their English soldiers.
That's why the king approved it.
Okay.
Yes.
But the family was not living there.
No.
They're
They
just
they probably
let's-
were, but then once war started, they were like, we're going to add this all in as a protective layer. Helps the soldiers, but then they also could leave.
Okay. Copy. Got it.
It ends up being like just a more of a transient place, and I
Sure.
feel like they don't actually stay there ever. But King Edward I is actually who approved all of it. The walls that they added were 12 feet thick. 12 feet thick. 2 C's.
Damn.
Aside from the English living kind of in and out of this castle, like soldiers, and Scots who would come raid back, and the Greys, there were other notable people who stayed in this castle, and there's only a few that are actually documented as they truly stayed here. There's some that are more...
Speculation.
Yes. But some of the ones that were actually documented are King Edward I and King James I. And then, as I mentioned, the other notable names that there isn't as much proof is a man named John Sage.
Okay.
John Sage is known to be who survived beneath the castle. And what he did there is most certainly what lends to all the dark spirits and lore that is tied to the castle now.
Oh, shit.
So there are cells and dungeons that are carved into the earth that are far beyond the reach of daylight or freedom. These spaces were never intended for temporary confinement, nor were they built with any intention of mercy. They were designed for prolonged misery. They were narrow, airless, and often severely overcrowded. So as the years passed, these underground... What?
What the hell? So this guy just like tunneled down below into the dungeon, or?
Well, they
already had a dungeon?
apparently it's kind of already there,
Okay.
but he's the one who resided in them the most.
So he just like sets up shop basically in the dungeon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
I need to know where he came from.
I'll
Go
tell
ahead.
you. I'm like, I'll tell you his story. I'll tell you.
I have questions.
Yeah. In the early years of like the wars and things like that, they were used primarily for the soldiers to remain housed in the dungeons. But it started to turn into more of a place for Scottish soldiers instead. And then that term of enemy changed to where wives of soldiers were taken, and even elderly were dragged from villages that had been burned. And they also started taking children to be chained in there as captives as well. So It kind of spiraled. It started with getting enemy soldiers, and then it started to get anyone who was in association with them, espionage, insubordination, anything like that. So wives, children, the elderly, it just kind of turned into a overcrowded area of, from what I would understand, probably Scottish people.
That's just unnecessary.
It was very eye-opening when we went over there, and there was certain castles you'd walk through and you were allowed to see the dungeons, or there was one castle, I say it wrong every time. I think it's Dunatar Castle. It's out on this cliff, and it has not necessarily like dungeons or like basement dungeons. It still had what you would call a dungeon, but not underground.
Okay.
And it was where they would keep these people. And going into that area, the amount of people that they said would be kept in there at a time, Aaron and I were like just blown away at how they could get that many bodies in that area.
Yeah, there's just no way.
At one time.
Ugh.
But then it's like, I think one person's sick, you're all dead.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody.
Yeesh.
Yeah, very interesting. And I would not want to be alive in that time, but I'd be curious to be able to time travel and kind of look in on it and see what it truly
was like.
Looked like. But over time, the underground tunnels became more than prisons. They became tombs. Death seeped into these walls. The cries and screams of countless prisoners once filled these chambers, and it is said that their echoes have never truly faded. Even centuries later, this space feels marked by what occurred within it. The walls themselves hold proof, with scratch marks, crude etchings, and carved initials left behind by those who knew they would never survive these places.
Yeesh.
So this is where John quotes Dragfoot Sage comes into play.
Dragfoot?
Dragfoot.
That sounds horrible.
Can you imagine hearing, like, you can hear his name, but can you imagine the sound that comes with?
Does he have a foot that he drags behind him?
Basically.
It's giving Hunchback of Notre Dame vibes.
Except the Hunchback of Notre Dame was nice, wasn't
I know. Yeah, I think so.
Igor?
Yeah,
Isn't
but wasn't he
nice?
like mean at first because everybody was mean to him? And then all of a sudden he's
Probably.
nice?
Probably like
Yeah.
Frankenstein. He was like mean and then he learned to be nice.
Yeah.
I used to be mean and then I learned to be nice. It's called defense mechanism,
I
girl.
used to be nice. Now I'm mean.
Their turns have tabled.
Yeah.
So he was said to be the master torturer of Chillingham Castle.
Wow.
He stands, isn't that is a title to want. Yeah. He stands as one of the most feared and shadowy figures tied to this grim legacy. Sage was once a soldier in the army of King Edward I. He was said to be among the most capable. He earned a reputation for his physical strength, his discipline, and his unwavering loyalty to the English crown.
It all comes out.
There it is. During one of the many clashes between the English and Scottish forces, Sage was struck down by a spear thrust into his leg by a Scottish soldier. The injury left him permanently crippled, with his mobility being destroyed, and with that, his purpose as a warrior.
Right.
So, stripped of his role and his identity and his place among the ranks, legend suggests that something within him hardened. He refused to fade into obscurity, and Sage is said to have pleaded for another way to serve the crown.
Sure. Yes.
So, whether out of desperation or loyalty or refusal just to accept what life was, he sought a new purpose. And rather than discard him, the king allegedly granted Sage a new role, which was to become the torturer of Chillingham Castle.
The master torturer. I think that just comes with unwavering loyalty. Like, this man was born to be a soldier.
Yeah.
And that was taken away from him. And he's like, I have to do my duty.
I have to
some
figure
other
this
way.
out. There's still people like that today that are like, this is what I need to do. And if it's taken from me from one way, I'm still going to do it this way.
Right. I'm still going to do my due diligence to the crown and kill these Scottish people.
Yeah.
And he probably had a newfound vengeance as even more now because it's a personal vendetta at this point.
And like took his pride, his ego, his power.
So I bet he loved him some torture.
Loved his job.
Yikes.
At the height of his reign as master torturer, it was said that he oversaw the suffering of as many as 50 people a week, with as many as 7,500 souls ultimately falling victim to his methods. And that, I think, was over like a 3-year time period. It was a pretty small time period.
Holy shit.
50 people a week.
Oh my God.
You've got 7 days.
Yeah, how many people is that a day?
Well, 56, 7, 8. 8 people a day, less than 8 people a day.
Approximately 7.1 people a day. So 7 people.
Yeah. Well, 7 and 7 is 49, so that would have been way easier than 7 and 8. 7 and 8 and 56 ran through my mind first.
It's okay. We're really smart.
Very good at maths. But these are some of the torture devices said to have been used by our good friend John here.
Oh boy.
One of them is called the rack. It is a large wooden frame that's raised slightly off the ground. The victims would basically be laid on it, and then their wrists would be tied up and their ankles would be tied up. Then there was a crank you would turn, and it would pull the ropes tight and gradually stretch the body like Genghis Khan did with his men and horses. And this was going to be used to cause extreme pain. Sometimes it would dislocate major joints. But then it could just tear your muscles and tendons, and sometimes separate limbs entirely if that's just how that worked.
Oh, God. I could not imagine being pulled apart.
Even having to watch it. Hear it happening to someone. Being anywhere near that.
Oh.
Another one is called the Iron Maiden.
I know this one.
It is a large, hollow iron coffin shaped like human figure. It's giving mummy.
Mm-hmm.
And the interior surface is lined with long iron spikes. These spikes are positioned to pierce the body while avoiding immediate death. And in some designs, they could be adjusted to tighten or increase the penetration. You could change them up. I feel like that's in like Scooby-Doo or something. I feel like it's one of the things they hide in.
You see Iron Maidens everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're definitely a more popular of the figures.
Torture device. Yeah.
There is the spiked chair. It is constructed from wood or iron, and it resembles a standard chair, but it is covered in hundreds of sharp spikes across the seat, backrest, armrest, and leg supports.
Hell yeah.
There are restraints attached to hold the victim firmly in place, and in some versions, you could tighten the restraints, forcing the body to go deeper
down
into the spikes.
Yikes.
I'm laughing at Shae's reaction, not at the poor people who had to suffer through this.
Yeah, it's not funny.
No, that would be absolutely just insanely miserable. There are also a bed of nails, which is basically the same situation except on a platform. And same thing, they could have restraints, or even sometimes they would add an additional spiked board over top of the victim, sandwiched into spikes. Spiky boards.
Wow, they really like spikes.
Yeah, I think that was
just seemed to be
kind of all they could figure out at some points, and then they'd add in.
Do you remember whenever the museum used to have a bed of nails that you could lay on?
No, I don't.
Yeah, they used to. I did it. Did it once.
I don't think I remember that.
But I was like a little kid, so there wasn't enough weight for the spikes to hurt. Yeah.
Oh. Nope. Don't remember. Don't think I
frequented the museum.
I did not that much. Another one is called iron cages, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's iron enclosures shaped to hold a human body. They are extremely cramped, allowing little to no movement. The cages can be locked and are often suspended from poles, trees, gallows, or mounted on elevated structures. So they look kind of like the Iron Maidens.
Yeah, but they're
just made out of just like iron
bars,
basically.
And they're see-through, I'm assuming. So the person is just there.
Yeah, so they're still stuck in their like humanoid shape.
And possibly suspended somewhere.
Yeah, hanging. Sometimes I know that they would like hang them over, like if castles had stuff, you could hang them just off the castle, and they would just hang from part of the castle.
That sounds horrible. Honestly, even like different from being spiked to death, being alive and not being able to move.
Yeah, and if you're outside like that, birds can land on you
and eat you and peck you.
Seeing down below you, knowing you're about to get dropped into just nothingness. There's nothing you can do about it. You're normally starving if you're in something like that.
Oh, so that alone would send me into oblivion.
Yes. But I panic if I can't move of my own accord.
Right. That's what's so scary.
If someone's holding me down or like not necessarily holding me down. I don't get held down, but the idea of getting held down would send me into like psychosis probably.
Yeah.
If I can't even sometimes clothes, I'll be like, that's too much.
Yeah.
And I'm ripping them off. I.e. jeans lately. None of my jeans fit me and I don't want anything on my belly.
I don't do jeans anyway, unless they're big, baggy parachute pants.
Yeah. I don't like tight, skinny jeans. But yeah, even like right now, like last night we went to Stevie Nicks, but I wore a skirt and a very flowy shirt because I do not want anything on my stomach.
Yeah.
I hate.
And it was so cute.
It was very cute. It did turn out very cute. Okay, another device is called the scavenger's daughter. And it's a device often described as the reverse of the rack. Instead of stretching the body, it compresses it into a crouched position by forcing the head, hands, and feet together using a metal frame. The body is tightly compressed, restricting breathing and circulation. Prolonged uses can cause intense pain, internal pressure, and in extreme cases, bleeding from the nose, mouth, or eyes due to the force exerted on the body.
Shit.
I think that would be worse than being pulled apart.
If you're claustrophobic, yes.
Well, your ribs are being crushed. Your stomach's being crushed. Your everything inside of you is doing that.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
Holy shit, dude.
So avoid being caught by John.
This guy's a psycho.
Yeah, I would agree. We've also mentioned these before. They're called thumb screws. We mentioned them in the witch trials. They're a small handheld device made of metal plates with a screw mechanism designed to crush thumbs or fingers. As the screw is tightened, it applies increasing pressure, crushing bone and tissue. The pain is immediate and intense and often used to force confessions quickly. Severe damage to the fingers is common, sometimes resulting in permanent disability of your fingers.
For sure.
They're crushing your bone, then yes.
Yeah.
There's no more use. There's also something as simple as the branding iron, which is just a heated metal tool that they use to put permanent marks on your skin as punishment or as a source of identification.
They'll decide later.
There are iron chains, which is what it sounds like, chains on your wrist, your ankles, wherever they deem to put them on your body. People were whipped, people were beat, people were starved. And once John grew bored of repeatedly using the same devices and methods, it's said that he invented some of his own.
Sure, of course he did.
So he created boiling pots that were massive cauldrons that would be fixed over open flames or built into stone hearths. And victims were either dropped in or lowered in by using chains or pulleys, and the covers, the lids, would seal them inside, so their flesh would blister and peel within moments, yet death was often delayed just long enough to prolong the experience. So they were boiled alive.
Boiled to death.
Can you imagine smelling that?
No. No. I couldn't. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Another creation of his was called the spiked barrel. It was a hollow and wooden cylinder, so a barrel, lined internally with iron spikes that angled inward, and each spike was carefully sized to penetrate deeply without immediately killing.
Mm-hmm.
Once the victim was forced inside and the barrel was sealed, it was rolled, kicked, or violently pushed, and it essentially would skin the victim alive.
Ooh, so they were really not. Ugh. That's where my brain went, is that they were going to go into a barrel before you even started, a barrel of spikes and get pushed down a hill. Yep. That was my first thought. And then I was not wrong.
You were not wrong. And the result was someone being skinned alive.
No, thank you. Kill me. Just kill me.
Please. And then this one, I don't necessarily know if he really truly invented himself. I don't think that this truly was invented by him, but it is something that is very common, and it's rat cages.
Mm-hmm.
So rats would be placed directly on the victim's body, usually over their stomach or chest. And one side of the cage would be open, so the rat would be just sitting on your chest, and the other side would be exposed to intense heat. And the only way that the rats could get out was by chewing through your body.
You know where I learned that?
The museum?
Fast and Furious.
Oh.
The museum.
The museum. I don't know where I learned about it, but I know I've known about it for a very long time because it was really disturbing. When I learned about it, I was like, oh.
Yeah. I learned about it on Fast and Furious.
Maybe that's where I learned it. I don't know. I watched all those.
They do that to a guy in there.
Maybe that was it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I know I've known about them for a long time, and I thought I've never liked the idea of it.
No, it's horrifying because they will. They can't find a way out. They will chew their way out.
Ugh. He also used eye gouging instruments. So he used precision tools, often consisting of sharpened prongs, hooks, or narrow spoon-shaped instruments that were designed specifically for extraction. So
Just pop that bad boy out of there?
Yeah, it's not really blunt torture devices. It's more of a controlled and deliberate use, which is far more torturous, like the thumb screws.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's intense. That's a quick, intense way to have an issue.
I mean, you're not dying by getting your eyeball scooped out.
No, but it's not fun.
No. It's legit torture. Like these all are so torturous. The only ones that I feel like are causing death pretty quickly is the rack and then the
boiling alive.
The boiling alive and then what was the other one?
Where
you get crushed.
Spike bed, basically.
Nope.
Oh, okay, yes.
Where you get crumbled up into a
was it Scavenger's
ball.
Daughter? The Scavenger's Daughter, the reverse of the rack.
Yeah. Why is it called that? Ew.
So Sage's role, as brutal as it was, depended entirely on the state of the war.
Did it?
Did it?
I don't think it did. I don't think so.
There's definitely rumors that he continued beyond war.
Yeah, I think it had to do with his mental state, not the war.
Yeah, I would say so as well. But as soon as the first peace alignment, as fragile as it was struck between Scotland and England, his need diminished again. And in that, apparently the king told him to release the prisoners that he still had. But there is a whole story about him that regardless of this, he let them go. And I didn't really put it in here because I didn't know how true it really sounded. He let them go and then he went to other villages and like somehow got a lot of them to come to the castle in some way. And once they got there, he burned them all alive.
Oh!
Men, women, children, the elderly. Like, he said trapped them and burned them.
One last.
Hoorah.
Wow.
So there is the whole story that there was potentially a massive fire of people.
A mass casualty.
In the castle as well.
Yeesh.
Because the castle has the exterior walls and things like that. So interior is like a courtyard that's open. And so in that courtyard, it was said that that's where a lot of the soldiers stayed, or a lot of the kids would run around and play, or, you know, food was cooked there, things like that. And I think that is where it was said that the burning, if it took place, had taken place.
Goodness.
But by 1560, the Treaty of Edinburgh marked a turning point, reducing foreign influence in Scotland and paving the way toward eventual peace.
Yay!
That peace finally came in 1603 with the union of the crowns, when James VI and the First both united kingdoms under one rule. And for the first time which I'm pretty sure he was the same person, but since he was a crown here and a crown here, he was the James VI of this nation and James I of this, and then he became the ruler of both.
Oh.
We've talked about him before.
Okay.
And for the first time in centuries, the borderlands grew quiet and Chillingham began to transform. By the late 1500s and early 1600s, the castle underwent major rebuilding and modernization. Grand entrances were added, cloisters were constructed, and its role shifted from defense to residence. So now it's able to be a royal residence again. And by the 18th century, the need for fortification had faded, and the surrounding grounds were now reshaped by a Sir Lancelot Brown. Lancelot! He transformed the once defensive landscape into an elegant parkland, and further refinements were made inside, turning the castle into a place of status and comfort rather than a place of survival.
And torture?
And torture, absolute torture. And as the years went by, the castle began its slow but steady decline, which is super sad because it went from like a decent place to be, fortress, they were making it a good place to be, and now it's not a good place to be again.
Oh, man.
It had decades of neglect combined with the world moving into the industrial era, making and maintaining such a massive estate super difficult and super expensive.
Sure.
And so without the power and influence that the family once held, and I'm pretty sure the Greys held a lot of influence because they were really close with the king. And it seemed if you were in alliance with the king, you had a lot better things going for you.
Sure, of course.
And so as things like that start to fade, then the castle doesn't have the money, gets abandoned, and the last family that was living there moved into a village nearby. And then came World War II for the castle. This castle's gone through it, but you have to think of something that's built in like
the 1200s.
It's definitely seen
Get
some
the
shit,
fuck outta here.
right?
Yeah, it's seen all the shit.
It's seen everything.
Everything.
So the castle was turned into military barracks
Again.
and supply shortages and the brutal winters that were happening there forced the soldiers to start burning whatever wood they could find. They were doing floors, walls, decorations, furnitures, anything that had the potential to burn was burned.
Mhm.
So the castle was further ruined. Even the roof was damaged because they used pieces of that. And so then there's rain and water that's getting inside,
Yeah.
and the elements are ruining pretty much everything that had remained of the castle. And by the time the war ended, the estate was divided and sold, and the castle had reduced to basically ruins. But in the years that followed that, there were efforts made to restore the castle, and under a new ownership, a long and careful process of restoration began. The structure was stabilized, roofs were rebuilt, interiors were restored, the grounds were reclaimed, and basically now Chillingham Castle stands again.
Oh,
So you can go do
tours.
ghost tours, you can go do tours.
Oh, wow.
You can go do visits. It's an estate where you can do that. And I don't know if the people who, a lot of the castles over there, the people, like the families who own it, they live in half the castle still.
Yeah.
And then only let you view half the castle during season
Yeah.
because there's only tourism season for so many windows.
Yeah.
So Chillingham Castle is very clearly rich in hauntings, history, strange occurrences, and unexplained paranormal activity,
I
which
wonder why.
is, not shocking at all. There are footsteps that wander the wall. What? There are footsteps that wander the halls endlessly. I struggle sometimes, footsteps wander the walls.
They may be wandering the walls too.
I wander the walls, actually. But there's also whispers that seem to come within the walls themselves and apparitions that appear without any warning, which I don't want to be in an old castle like that and really experience any of that. Can you imagine experiencing some of the torture victims after they've been tortured? What their
'cause they're
ghosts may
mad.
potentially, what they may look like even.
Yeah.
How horrifying.
Scary.
Yeah, that could be traumatizing.
Mm-hmm.
It is said that there is at least 100 ghosts that are said to haunt these chambers and corridors. And it is said that every single room has a presence of its own.
Oh, yeah.
Still not hard to believe.
No.
So we're going to start with the lake. There's a lake on site.
Ooh.
And it is said that the lake was once used as a dumping ground for the dead. So prisoners who died in the dungeons, whether from illness or starvation or being victims, were thrown into this lake. Their bodies were discarded without ceremony and are believed to have been left to sink into its depths, basically.
Oh, that's terrible.
So rumors persist that if you dip your hands into the water, an unseen force may reach up from below, and invisible hands will grab hold of you and pull you under, dragging you into the darkness as well.
So I won't be trying that.
So we won't be sticking our hands in the lake. Note to self. There have also been reports of a ghostly apparition that is seen walking from the lake itself, emerging from the waters before vanishing into thin air. And at times, there are sounds and faint images of children playing near the water that can be seen or heard. This is especially unsettling, as children were believed to be among the most common victims in the castle's brutal past.
Eesh.
So a lot of child bodies in the lake. At least they're out playing, some happiness, right?
Yeah.
But that's still horrible.
That's terrible.
I'd be very curious if they were to exhume the lake.
Yeah, that's what I was literally just about to say, is if they've found any remains.
I don't know if they've ever done it. I didn't get
They
that.
probably should.
Didn't even think about that until now, and I'm like, oh,
I guess it doesn't really matter.
It would almost be disturbing them at this point. If they've been there since the 12 to 1300s, it would almost be just kind of rude, I feel like. Like they've already hopefully made their peace.
Yeah. Well, maybe not.
Not if they're Roman. But maybe they've already like been okay and they're okay in this situation they're in. I don't know. I try it. What? Glass half full?
Yeah, glass half full.
So the courtyard, which I also mentioned, is believed to be the very site where John Sage, the castle's infamous torturer, burned all of his prisoners alive. And because of this, it remains one of the most active areas for paranormal activity within the castle grounds. The area is rich with reports of strange occurrences, disembodied voices, whispers that seem to circle around you, and shadowy figures that can be seen wandering aimlessly around the courtyard. Whenever you watch some of the ghost shows, they really hit on the courtyard, and they'll say that you can definitely hear like children. You can hear the day-to-day life of what it used to be like for the soldiers and things like that who would have been hammering or changing horseshoes or doing any of the things that they did in the courtyard. They say you can hear all of that, like residual energy in that stone.
Ooh, yeah, I bet.
So that would be very cool to hear, but also very terrifying.
Yeah.
There is also the grounds that surround the castle and a garden, and they are both known to be also disturbed by paranormal activity. One of the most commonly reported sightings is that of a headless man roaming around the castle grounds and garden. Unlike many ghost stories that rely on darkness or nightfall, this figure is often seen in broad daylight, making the encounters even more unsettling and harder to dismiss. On rare occasions, a phantom funeral procession has also been seen moving across the grounds. Silent and almost dreamlike, these ghostly figures appear as if replaying a moment from the past, offering a brief but chilling glimpse into the history of the castle before they fade away. Can you imagine seeing like pallbearers, casket, people following it, but ghosts, and seeing it in that dreamlike trance, like hazy, everything in front of you is kind of hazy state.
Gosh.
And also seeing a headless man. In the daytime.
Yeah.
In the daytime.
Just in the broad ass daylight.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stuff going on over there.
You want to go?
Yeah, I do, actually.
Actually, I do want to go back overseas and head from Scotland. Like we want to land in Scotland, spend time in Scotland, and then go down to London. And so you'd have to drive past like all of this to get there. And it's going to be a trip one day. My poor children. I guess I can't say poor children because they're definitely going to grow up seeing some cool stuff. But they're also going to be like, I've been to a castle and they decapitated this man. Like I
saw a headless man.
Yeah, I'm like, I've not had my child yet. I don't know what they look like, but I can envision my child being the kid that says something like that.
Yeah.
Not far off. So there's also the Great Hall. So from the courtyard, figures were often seen walking past or into the Great Hall. Across local stories, written accounts, and even reports from paranormal investigators, these sightings remain strikingly consistent, making the Great Hall one of the most active areas in Chillingham Castle. Objects within the room are said to move on their own. Items have reportedly been thrown at the backs of keepers during the night. Whispers, disembodied voices, and faint conversations can sometimes be heard echoing through the space.
Wow.
Even more disturbing are the figures seen sitting at the long table or standing silently in the corners. I'm cool with them at the tables, but please do not stand in a corner and stare at me.
Yeah, come join.
There's some light this way. Come into the light.
Come into the light, please.
Visitors, tourists, and paranormal investigators alike have reported nearly identical experiences. Some claim to have entered an empty hall, only to suddenly feel as though were no longer available. Only to suddenly feel as though they were no longer alone, surrounded by silent, unmoving figures that seem to appear out of nowhere. So a great hall is basically where they would like
a dinner hall.
Yeah, eat, spend a lot of their time.
I'm picturing the Harry Potter.
The Harry Potter. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would imagine that I don't know why my brain immediately goes to the noise of a space like that.
Yeah.
The chatter, the silverware, all of that clanking and things like that, and walking into a room like that and hearing those noises.
Yeah.
With no one being in there.
Right.
That would set me off.
It'd be a little scary.
A little bit. There's a place called the Minstrel's Gallery. And in great halls like that, at most of the castles we went to, they had areas above the Great Hall that were like They're basically stages. They're for musical performers or like jesters, whatever they're called. It was for things like that or people like that to entertain the Great Hall.
From above.
Above.
Interesting.
It would be like basically a second story, but it would only be maybe like a 10-foot long platform, just long enough for them to basically have a stage, and they would be more like horizontally. I don't know how, I'm not describing this very well. You could see pretty much everything, and they would be above the Great Hall so that you could look up there. The music would resonate throughout the whole room. Most of the time it was bands and stuff that'd be up there.
Yeah.
But this also has one, and it's called the Minstrel's Gallery, and it's a balcony basically overlooking the chamber below. While it once served as a place for musicians, it is now associated with far darker experiences. There have been reports of people being pushed while near the stairs as if by unseen hands. Others describe sudden waves of nausea, intense headaches, and an overwhelming urge to throw themselves over the edge and down onto the stone floor below.
Oh, shit.
Shadowy figures are frequently seen moving along the gallery, darting quickly through the darkness just out of clear sight, as if something was watching you from above.
Don't like that.
I don't like the sudden desire to jump over the edge. Because the Great Halls are already normally one of the rooms in the castle that is not low ceilings.
Yeah,
castles are kind of cramped, honestly, when you would be walking through them. Low ceilings to make up for like 15 floors in a space.
Right.
But the Great Halls were always just massive rooms, huge, intricate, like the ceilings would always have like intricate designs. And then they'd have like the balcony. There'd always be tapestries on the walls. Really, really cool space to be in. I would probably be very nervous to be in one at nighttime. Like in the dark.
It's such a vast space.
Yeah.
Truly. Like within inside a building.
And you could hear like one pen drop in there would echo throughout the whole space, which would just make it even more eerie.
Ugh.
There is a painting of a Spanish witch. So near the dungeon hangs an old and unsettling painting, often referred to as the Spanish witch. The figure depicted is said to have a piercing gaze, which is one that follows you as you pass by, no matter where you stand.
Not the senorita.
What's witch?
Yeah, what is, well, not that, but.
Not that.
Ooh, that's exactly where my mind went.
Ugh. According, like the senorita that you used to have in your house?
So my mom still owns. Yeah.
I told you, I'm pretty sure I've said that. I think that picture is it. It's the problem. According to the legend, the painting is tied to a dark history, believed to represent a woman accused of witchcraft centuries ago. Some say she was imprisoned within the castle, her spirit forever bound to the place after her death. Others believe the painting itself is cursed, acting as a vessel for something far more sinister. Nearby, letters of apology have been left behind by visitors who claim to have fallen victim to her curse. Alongside these letters are small items like rocks, leaves, and other objects that had been taken from the castle grounds and returned later. So it's almost giving Robert the Doll or any of those where if you don't get their permission, something bad happens. But it's like if you take something from the castle, she's going to get you.
Ooh.
Those who took items reported experiencing intense misfortune, sudden illness, unexplained accidents, and a series of strange and disturbing events. Many claim that the bad luck only stopped once the stolen object was returned to its rightful place.
She ain't fucking around.
No, and what's far more horrifying is I would almost imagine that the majority of people who visit a castle like this are tourists from other countries.
Oh, for sure.
Like me. Like if I had taken a rock from there, how am I getting the rock back?
Can I ship it to the castle?
Yes.
What's the address?
Can I send it to you and you please return it for me?
Oh my God.
No givesies backsies, I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
Eey.
Of course, the dungeons. Today, visitors often report overwhelming sensations when entering these areas.
You can go down in the dungeon?
No.
Oh.
We'll get there.
Okay.
I think I haven't mentioned. Feelings of dread, sorrow, and intense negativity are common. Disembodied voices can sometimes be heard. Groans, moans, whispers, and even distant screams that come from the walls themselves. So the dungeons themselves were actually closed by somebody. But you can stand next to like the walls of the dungeons. And then they also created different dungeon spaces.
Okay.
For people to go through.
Yeah.
Like they recreated a room full of all the torture devices.
Just not the dungeon.
There is a room called the Oubliette. It is a small windowless dungeon room, typically accessed through a trapdoor in the ceiling, where prisoners, unwelcome guests, or those from whom nothing could be gained were confined. So like if someone came and you had no use for them, you get to go into the oubliette, or however it's said.
Yeesh.
Oubliette. Historically, it was a place designed for total isolation and despair, and there are accounts suggesting it was sometimes used to torture the children. Those imprisoned inside would be chained to the damp stone walls, condemned to never see daylight again. Before being thrown down, their arms and legs were often broken to prevent any attempt at escape or resistance. The 20-foot drop into total darkness left them broken and helpless, left to die slowly, either from starvation, thirst, or the severe injuries which were inflicted upon them.
That's nuts.
Mm-hmm. Watch where you walk if you're going to go visit now.
Holy crap.
In their desperate struggle to survive, these poor souls sometimes resorted to unspeakable acts, attempting to eat their own flesh or even the decaying bodies of those who were already perished around them. If you visit Chillingham Castle today and shine a light down into the depths, you will find the skeletal remains of a young girl, estimated to be about 12 years old, believed to be the last person to fall victim to this horrific fate.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah. Isn't that horrible?
That's crazy pants.
Yes, I would agree.
Wow.
There's also a Lady Mary Berkeley. She was the wife of Lord Grey, so one of the lords who had once resided there. And her story is one of quiet tragedy and emotional ruin, betrayed by her own husband, who eloped with her sister.
Yeah.
She was left behind within the cold walls of Chillingham Castle to raise their infant daughter alone. Abandoned and heartbroken, she spent the remainder of her life waiting for his return that never came. She died in 1719, but many believe her sorrow never has truly left the castle. Visitors often describe hearing the faint rustle of silk or fabric drifting through corridors and spiraling up turret staircases, believed to be the soft movement of her gown as she wanders. A sudden, unnatural drop in temperature is commonly reported, along with an overwhelming feeling of sadness, longing, and quiet despair. Though rarely seen clearly, when she does manifest, she is described as a pale figure dressed in muted gray tones, aimlessly roaming the castle as she continues her eternal search for her lost husband. In the late 1920s, a portrait of Lady Mary Berkeley was displayed in the castle nursery. Both family and staff were deeply familiar with the legend of her, and they say that the spirit itself is capable of physically stepping out of the painting.
Oh, boy.
That reminds me of the Sweet Life of Zach and Cody episode.
Yeah.
Because at the very end, she does like move out of it, you know?
Yeah.
But that's really sad.
Yeah, it is really terribly sad.
I think it's
this
sad.
castle is...
It's got a lot.
Wow.
It's sad to me because my brain immediately is like, girl, screw him.
I know, that's what I was thinking.
But,
deadbeat baby daddy.
Yeah, but in a time like that, you rely so heavily on your husband. And
yeah,
what if she truly loved him?
Yeah, maybe she did.
You know?
She probably did.
She did if she's still wandering the halls in search of him. It's very sad.
Tragic.
It's very, very sad. And to think she's just stuck in this constant state of mourning. She's never been able to get past it for eternity.
No.
How sad.
Eternity's a long time.
It's forever.
Forever, never.
Forever.
Forever.
There is the Blue Boy, who is also known as the Radiant Boy. He has a distinct blue glow that accompanies his presence. He is said to haunt the Pink Room, and this spirit gained notoriety not only for his frequent appearances, but the story that's tied to him. At night, visitors have reported hearing the cries and soft moans of a young boy echoing through the room, often accompanied by sudden cold spots and an unexplainable sense of dread. But what truly sets this haunting apart are the sightings, a small figure of a boy bathed in an eerie blue light and sometimes appearing as flashes or pulses of blue illumination in the darkness. In the 1920s, a grim discovery was made within the very room he is said to haunt, a small skeleton of a young boy hidden within the castle walls. He had been walled up alive. The condition of the remains told its own story. The tips of the boy's fingers were worn and torn, which were clear evidence that he had desperately tried to crawl his way out of the prison that he was put in.
Aww.
Following the discovery, the remains were given a proper burial, and for a time, it was claimed that the haunting ceased. Yet even now, there are reports of a strange blue light and the flicker of electrical energy whenever you come into that room. Isn't that really sad?
That is really sad, but how... Was it on purpose or accident?
I don't know.
I
guess it depends on if John Sage was involved or not.
Right.
And then there is King Edward's room. So often regarded as the most active and disturbing location within Chillingham Castle, The chamber is said to have been the site of a horrific massacre where approximately 50 children met their deaths at the hands of the castle's infamous and master torturer, John Sage. Many believe that the brutality inflicted within these walls has permanently imprinted itself on the room, leaving behind an intense concentration of paranormal activity.
So he was just killing people everywhere. Not just in the dungeon.
He just does what he wants.
Wow.
The chamber itself is dominated by a heavy chandelier, which according to numerous accounts has been seen swaying in complete darkness despite the absence of any draft. Visitors and investigators alike have reported a wide range of phenomena, including disembodied voices whispering from unseen corners, sudden cold spots that seem to drain the warmth from the air, and the distinct sound of phantom footsteps echoing behind them as though something is following them closely.
Sure they are.
Ugh.
Everywhere you look, there's a ghost.
Everywhere. Above, along the balcony, shadowy figures are seen to be moving how they did in the Great Hall as well. And then, most disturbingly, there are sightings of children, small figures wandering aimlessly through the chamber. Some appear as they were in life, while others bear the gruesome marks of their deaths, decapitated forms, mutilated bodies, and in some accounts, shadowy shapes dragging themselves slowly across the floor.
Ah! Ew!
So there is also the chapel, which is where, if it was a monastery, the castle seemed to have originated.
Mm-hmm.
During the restoration efforts in the earlier 20th centuries, workers made another grim discovery, and hidden beneath the aged structure were the remains of 3 individuals. 2 bodies were found beneath the floor near the stained glass along the wall, while a third body, believed to be a young girl, was discovered in the rear corner concealed under the floorboards.
The hell?
None of the remains were ever identified. No records, no names, no clear cause of death. They could have been victims of disease, perhaps casualties of the plague that once swept through Europe, or victims of war who were caught within the violence that surrounded this castle. Perhaps they even attempted to quietly dispose of the bodies during darker times. Visitors and investigators have reported a wide range of phenomena: disembodied whispers drifting through the air, faint footsteps echoing when no one was present, and most commonly, the apparitions of children seen playing, lingering, or simply watching from a distance. But among these hauntings, one presence stands out, which is the spirit of the little girl who is believed to have been kept in the chapel. Her presence is often marked by cold spots and sharp drops in temperature. Visitors have also reported gentle tugs at their clothing, shifting cold spots and things like that. Like, it would make you know that it was a kid in that room. You know what I mean? But there are also there's some more. There's every room, like I said, in this castle.
There's so many.
So there is definitely more that you could go look up and get a taste of if you wanted to. There's tons and tons of things that have...
How many more ghosts are in there?
There's so many. They say over hundreds, you know, and they said every room is speculated to be haunted. And if you go watch, like, Project Fear has gone to Chillingham, Sam and Colby have gone to Chillingham. I think The Boys have gone to Chillingham. There's a ton of ghost shows that have gone and investigated.
I'm going to have to watch one.
I've seen Project Fears a couple of times, and it actually turns out they were in Scotland and all of that whenever I was there. But their episodes, don't come out till later. And I don't know how I figured that out, but I was like, you're freaking kidding me.
You're joking.
You're kidding me right now. But they did do that. I don't think I watched the Sam and Colby episode. I don't think I knew that they had one there until I was doing research. And I watch multiple different ghost stories. I'll watch different episodes of history, things like that. And that's where I learned about the monastery, is that it was potentially not actually even a thing, was by watching a documentary on YouTube. But anyways, there is so many sightings. All the ghost show people have so many experiences aside from just the general ghosts that they say are there. They all have all these things that happen to them. So I would highly recommend going and watching any of those episodes if you are interested in the history of the castle, or even seeing what the castle looks like now.
Yeah, I would just want to see what it looks like.
It's a very pretty structure.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's really cool to see. And they redone the Great Hall to have all the things inside of it that would look like it probably did back then.
Yeah.
And it's just a really, really cool experience. I'd also recommend, if you ever could take a trip to go see anything like that, to 1,000,000% do it.
You didn't go to Chillingham?
I did not, because it was on the English border.
Oh, okay.
And when we landed in Edinburgh, we basically mainly went north. We didn't really go south of Edinburgh, not much. We mainly went north. We did a loop.
Mm-hmm.
So where we went north, whatever, but we did not really go south. We had to drive south, but not really past Edinburgh.
Sure.
but we would like to go back. And then that's where we would go through Chillingham.
Yeah, for sure.
But definitely recommend. If you like the story and the episode, then like, comment, subscribe, all the good things. Feel free to go follow us on all of our social medias. They're always tagged in our episode descriptions. I have links to our Instagram, our YouTube, our TikTok, Facebook. I even finally put our No, I did not put our Discord. I need to put our Discord. I did put our Patreon because I am working on it. All of our free episodes that we put out that have ads in them on YouTube and on Spotify. I don't know if Apple Podcast plays their own ads, but I know that YouTube and Spotify does. And so Patreon will also play ads if you go to our free channel, but I am working on getting our episodes ad-free posted on Patreon. It's $1.99 a month, and you get every episode that we put out ad-free. Yeah. So if you are bothered by ads, feel free. It's there. You don't have to. It's just an option.
Yeah.
But I'm working on that. We've got some backlogging to do, but working on it, and it's linked down in all of our stuff now.
And eventually Patreon will be
we'll
more
amp it
than
up.
Just ad-free
stuff.
stuff.
I'm like, we'll amp it up, and once we can get to that stage, we'll amp it up and start adding in, bonus episodes and live streams and more things like that. We
Bloopers.
Bloopers for sure. I've kept a file of bloopers as I edit. So there's bloopers for the last about 2 years of us.
That's so funny. I'm glad that you do that.
I knew that one day it would be necessary.
Yeah.
But,
sometimes a little piece of me dies whenever I cut out a really funny part.
Oh, I keep them. I try to. Or at least make them into like a TikTok so they can be somewhere. Because we do have a lot of little funny, silly stuff.
We do.
But yeah, feel free to like, follow, subscribe, all the good things. Make sure that you leave a comment and let us know if you like the episode. And feel free to send us your own ghost stories, your own recommendations at sistersofthestrangepodcast@gmail.com.
That's us.
And I think that's all I've got for you.
That's all we got.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.